super excited for this special edition around the topic of education technology in Rwanda. We have leaders in the education technology space and also people who've been either working from a policy standpoint, but also from the entrepreneurship standpoint as well. And we're going to be talking a lot about how do we improve education, how do we adopt technology in education, and I'm very excited about that. I'll kick off with the first question to you, Minister. Rwanda has done a lot of work in investing in digital, and one of the biggest challenges that we are facing as entrepreneurs trying to work in the education space is that a lot of our users come back to us and say, we love your software, we love the tool that you built for us. However, accessing it is very expensive because data is very expensive for us. So we can only access it at home or, at school and maybe not at home. So maybe the question is, at the ministry, what are you guys thinking about around some of these challenges so that you can enable some of us to operate it?
First of all, it's going to be very difficult for me to answer how data can be accessible and affordable at home. Because, my area of operation is in the classroom. But just, I think, on a, general note, I think if we start with the classroom, because we can gather as many students, we convene a large number of students in one place. We can easily make them share many of the tools that are impossible to have, individually. I think that's what I would say we have been focusing on. Now, the at-home side, I think we will need to look into what that means. Is it accessing educational learning tools at a discounted rate? What does that mean? This is a conversation that we will need to have with the telecom operators or the internet service providers. I remember we did this during COVID when everyone was working from home, and we needed everyone to have access to especially the content, under the learning management systems or other platforms are available. And so we worked an arrangement with ISPs at the time, and they were able to zero rate. Now, if we do decide to make sure that now anyone can have access to this, there is a conversation that needs to happen. I don't think it can be free because someone else has to foot the bill. But what would that take? What's the need like? Who has, for instance, in your case, who has access to the kind of tools that you have? What's the size? Is that sizable enough? Does it have potential to transform some of the things that we see both at home and at school? Then there's a conversation that needs to be had. But on a general note, I think from a policy level, our drive has been to make sure that schools have what it takes to embed and infuse technology in the offering, right? So are the teachers equipped? Do we have the necessary content in the tools and the devices? And can we facilitate learners to use this to improve their learning outcomes?
Awesome. Thanks a lot for that. I think something I want to pick up on, and maybe that leads to Clement's work when it comes to supporting teachers in the classroom and using technology. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about how the idea came about.
Thank you for the question on why we are doing what we do and what brought about the idea. So there is a learning crisis. So generally in most of the countries, there is a big success that has happened. All kids who are supposed to be in school at age 6 to 12, maybe 15, are in schools in most of the countries, and that's a big success. Unfortunately, then when you look at how much they learned or how they finish that basic education, being equipped with the skills in literacy, numeracy, and mastery of the curriculum, then that's not where we would like to see that, right? And there are multiple solutions. There is improving teacher training, improving teacher-pupil ratio, infrastructure, availability of learning resources or material in schools. But most of those solutions require a lot of resources and investment. We also know that there are some things that were proven to work. So things that were proven to work are recognizing that teachers in the developing world do not access enough teacher training to become great teachers and able to pedagogically design the lessons. How can we support them? And we know structured lesson guides can help teachers, even though they are not well trained, to go and follow a guide and be able to teach effectively. And this can be done at scale if you can deliver these guides digitally. So that's where the idea came about is, okay, there is already proven approach. When you give teacher structured guides, they can improve teaching, but then how do we do it at scale? Technology. So we equip every single teacher in the schools we support with a tablet on which they receive teacher guides. Now, second level is, okay, we are sending teacher guides, but what are the levels of students that they have in front of them? So second proven solution is if you are teaching pupils at the level where they are at, then they learn. Like if you are teaching a student that needs to learn English, you start with basic English, then they actually can learn. So how do we get that is to continuously assess students, collect their level, and then analyze that to understand their level. So again, technology. So every teacher, when they deliver tests, they can put the scores of every student in the tablet, and these, again, we get it and analyze this data. Then lastly, how do you ensure that every school has the learning material that they need to for every student to be engaged in touching a book, reading, etc. Now, again, technology can help because one, you can track using technology how many books are in the school. Then you also deliver those books. But one of our innovation is if you have 3 P1 classrooms, you can create schedules so that you don't need books for every classroom, but you do the schedule so that books can shift depending on who is going to learn what. So all of a sudden, you are able to get in every student touch a book, but technically, you leveraging technology, you make that more optimized and efficient. So we do combine this, but in addition, making sure that teachers are at school, and everyone is doing what they are supposed to do, which is another layer, which is basically being able to monitor teachers. Usually, I know in the system, in all education system, we have inspectors. They can only visit a school at a time, but if then you add technology to track whether, and when they do, it's to see, is this school functioning? Are teachers there? And if you add technology to track this, then that happens. So having teachers at school, being able to teach using structured lesson plans, leveraging data to ensure that the content is matching students' level, then all this combined can drive learning outcome and accelerated learning outcome. So this is how the company came about. It started by trying, I would say, the method in New Globe's own schools that they set up. Julia was talking about Kibera. So the very first Bridge International Academy School was set up there. It's slum in Nairobi, and it showed results. Students were delivering well, and we built on that and started partnering with governments so to do this at scale and see it benefit more pupils.
What is the most, since you started, what has been the most surprising learning?
It is the most surprising from the perspective of education improvement is like how fast you can actually make a change. For example, when we start with a program, let's say whenever we enter into a partnership with the government, our commitment is to be in school within the next 6 months maximum. Most of education programs take longer to start. But then we also evaluate like after 6 weeks of intervention, because again, we collect a lot of data to see if something is completely wrong. So like within 6 weeks of intervention, what are we seeing? And generally, we already start to see something happening in terms of maybe more words read per minute by majority of the students in a specific classroom. So it's the ability to actually make an impact really, really fast in a space where change happens generally is very cautiously.
Let's go to the entrepreneurial side of things. What it's like to run an education technology startup in Rwanda?
You need to be strong to be honest, and because it's you are going to be meeting with challenges. Like today's challenge is different from the last 5 years challenges. I was speaking to Gabriel that back then we were struggling to have policymakers on board just to have a conversation. Just for a conversation like this, it wasn't really an easy thing to get. So that was to mean that the challenges, shifts. Of course, since we're not of pioneers of the EdTech solutions on their Rwandan's marketplace, I would say we had to face them. But on the other side, it is also really, really rewarding being in a position to support education, which is actually more of they say it's a common good. I don't recall the term that is normally used, but it's a social good. It's like everyone deserves the right to learn, which I also truly believe in. It should be a right for every student to even be able to access high quality learning, because everyone in this room knows how much a good education can shape your life as of now and even in the future. I think there might be changes, but maybe you did the formal education or informal, but at the end of the day, it's always about education that you had that is taking you places. So in generally, it is fun when you are meeting students. It is fun when you're engaging teachers. They're excited about your product. Everyone is like, congrats, this is really nice. You're going to solve a problem. This part is really, really fun and rewarding. You go home probably broke, but happy.
Yes.
You know? And then on the other side of a businessman, it's been quite a challenge. You can imagine running an EdTech solution, whereas you will hardly have a chat with the policymakers. You will hardly make it into a school. Like, I recall a moment when you could be at the school gate and say, hey, I have this and this. I just wanted to meet the dean of studies, just the dean of studies. And it was like, do you have an appointment? And it was so hard. Like, what are we even talking about? This is before COVID. So it was a very, very tough and rough route to make it into a very simple school in your neighborhood. But I think this mindset has quickly shifted very soon after the COVID. The doors are wide open. The challenge will be who's going to pay, how we're going to access these EdTech products. But yeah, so there's the experience.
Would you say that it's because it's very hard to get educators are very conservative about allowing new, let's say, innovation into the door? Is that the reason why they kept you at the gate of their schools?
In the beginning, they weren't even, why do we have to do this? Like,
But also because he looks like a baby.
probably as well. Probably as well, but not a week out. The nice thing today is I've seen so many headmasters are now quite, younger.
Yes.
Teachers are very young than they used to look 6 years ago. That could also be a fact, but again, I think the education technology wasn't really a thing 5-6 years ago, which is a very complete, different mindset as of today. Even those who are not embracing it, they will just tell you, hey, we don't have the lab yet. We're not sure the parents could afford this right now, but at least there is the openness to the conversation, to the products. You can maybe test with few, you can run it into the lab. Yeah, the challenge is next, but you have already crossed the door, you're in the office, you're in the lab, So.
Makes sense. Maybe let's go to the university side of things. That's a very interesting point they brought up, that let's say that Abdul and myself and Gabriel are representing the EdTech entrepreneur ecosystem. And Abdul is saying that back then it was very hard to, get access to the people that we need, them to listen to us and see the solutions that we have and potentially even test them a little bit. From a university standpoint, can you take us through how has been your philosophy in embracing technology over the years? And where are you now? Maybe let's say after COVID, we all know that COVID woke up something in all of us that we need to think about this technology thing. What has been the journey of the University of Rwanda in embracing technology in improving education outcomes?
Yeah. Thank you very much. I think technology in education is something which we can consider as now essential for the education to adapt, because there is the context where we deliver education in a curriculum which tends to be somehow framed into a program. That's the current approach. I'm studying electrical engineering, I'm studying chemistry, I'm studying economics, and we have a syllabus, we have the year 1, level 2. It's like a tradition to conceive education into a linear approach, frame in time. And then we have this technology evolution where knowledge is accessible and knowledge is available, can be shared at massive level without referring to the old system where books, you have to duplicate books in a library. Now you can click and share an ebook. I teach fiber optics communication. I just give them a reference and they click, they download the book in PDF. Just a simple model of showing how knowledge is accessible through technology. And that is fantastic because students can access. So at the University of Rwanda, what we did, at least in terms of access, we are also thankful the minister is here, the government. When the fiber optic communication platform was installed, it was like an instruction from the cabinet that wherever the fiber, the national backbone is passing, either be a public or private, that is a priority. You could see that approach. So access, of course, is for the material locally available, teaching or learning material, but we have now distributed content which is accessible on the internet. So connectivity become an issue. So we ensure that we have all the universities and higher learning institutions connected. We have at least one fiber connected, and then we have the university network and the bandwidth fully available. So at least that is a first step. Then the second step was the e-learning. So we have the e-learning, typically based on a Moodle, but we diversify by offering other platforms. And the teachers are sometimes innovative themselves by availing their own tools to enhance that. And I know that there is a Kahoot. Some teacher can couple it with Moodle, so it's very open. So YouTube has been also a very good tool because we have most of the video-based or whatever learning material are available. So if you use it, you can do demonstration easily of a complex system. For example, I teach fiber. I don't need to struggle. In the past, you struggle to explain how a laser light is generated through electricity. Nowadays, you just give a link. You have a very advanced digital simulation showing how photons are generated from a combination of whatever. Advanced physics. I teach, some teachers maybe struggle to explain advanced concept of mathematics. Like curve. I do not explain what it means, but mathematically, if you want to write it on a paper, it's very complicated. But if you just say why water, when water is flowing in a basin, why is it turning? Why is it not flowing? And then when you show very simple concept, through digital simulation, you can see the water particles simulated. So technology, just to emphasize, is an amplifier. So I consider it as an amplifier. So when it's an amplifier, meaning you can learn faster than before. The more you using technology, you can learn fast. So at the University of Rwanda, we try to couple that access of e-learning. And what we want to embrace, we are not yet there, is a concept now of virtual lab. There are some courses which have available tools, but not across all the disciplines. Of course, some disciplines are challenging to simulate, but in engineering and science, most of them are able to be enhanced through technology. So virtual lab is another opportunity we're exploring. And we have also, of course, teaching aids as a technology. We talk about class, SmartClass room. And myself, I'm not a fan of SmartClass. I will explain why. Because I realized that my tablet is actually a smart. Because I can connect to my e-learning through my tablet. I can make simulation through my tablet instead of a very energy-consuming whiteboard, which sometimes needs another proprietary software as a driver to be installed. So for me, I think people should also think about solutions which are flexible, adapt, and then students. So Minister is here. She has been a champion of computer, one laptop per student. We are happy to report that, at least at a large extent, it's a pleasure to see that you are teaching in the class. The printer, which have been busy, are now quite somewhere. All the students can follow with their own computer on their desk. That is a step ahead, I think. We need to continue to do it. Which model to use? That is another discussion, but at least having the device and access. Nowadays, we have some dynamics like AI, this generative AI, which are coming as a new dynamics. I don't know if we need to discuss right now. What we are trying to see is how do we adjust in the new environment? Is it a threat or an opportunity? Personally, I believe that is an opportunity. In which sense? Because with the current trend in technology, I believe that we should shift our way of education delivery. We have to consider that in terms of knowledge, meaning access and understanding and the material, everyone has that. Now, my future understanding and the approach I wish would open with EdTech, if now I have access to the content and I have the knowledge, how can I apply that knowledge to solve a problem? And that's why we try our best to implement concepts like problem-based learning or a challenge-driven education. This is a concept mostly adopted by some universities in Sweden. We have partners where now we assume that you have the material. I don't ask you to retrieve anything. You can even use the material during the solution, the finding of solution, access it. How do you use those tools? Generative AI, all the material available online, YouTube, to solve a problem. And then the classroom becomes now a platform of, we used to talk about 21st century skills. That's where you can see now, how do I use the knowledge to communicate better with my solution, or how do I consider the opinion of others, communication, listening. Those are the things I think we used to use use them like catalyst to build the graduate we want. So in UR, we have developed a framework we call the graduate attributes, which reflects which kind of profile we want for our student to have. So I think technology should be an enabler and a catalyst to allow that person to grow in a learning environment. Thank you.
Very powerful. Gabriel, what do you think of the state of EdTech right now in Rwanda? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's like Abdul said, it's still in the early stages. It's still very infantile. It's at the stage where there are a bunch of edtechs that are quite good, but they haven't really gotten a seat at the table yet, meaning they haven't been able to try their products. I know the ministry and MasterCard has been trying to figure out a way to kind of create an environment where edtechs can test their products in a safe environment with a specific school to be able to track if that is something worth launching into all the schools. But the state of EdTech is still at its early stages. But at the same time, it's jumping over several steps that, for example, where I come from in Sweden, we've done over a period of 20 years. Rwanda is doing it in a period of 3, 4, 5 years, meaning that it's skipping very fast. And solutions like the RwandaEQUIP has proven that we can now penetrate the early stage learning schools with innovative solutions like this. We as BAG have been able to get access to most universities in Rwanda and very easily collaborate with them, because now, especially as you said, after COVID, they're much more open to use technology and edtechs as a complement to their current systems. So I would say it's on the uprise, and not just in Rwanda, obviously all of East Africa. It's going to be essential that we continue adopting to it and not wait another 5-10 years until we fully embrace it. But like as Dr. Ignace was talking about, is that the quicker we embrace it, the better the learning outcomes we'll see. So I think the policy leaders and the principals and the VCs needs to be the people really holding that flag and pushing it forward fast.
Awesome. Cool. Minister, back to you. Education at any level is trying to get a young person at the end of the day into an income generating opportunity so they can change their life. That is the goal of education. However, we're seeing a lot of reports from young people saying that the current education system is not preparing them to handle or to compete on the job market, or when they finish school, they do not feel like they are ready, or employers are saying that they're not ready. And everybody blames the education system and says whoever is working on this education system needs to listen to us and figure out a solution for us. How do you take in these comments, and what are we doing? Because we all know that the job market is evolving rapidly. and the education system doesn't seem to be evolving as rapidly, at least from the outside. But yeah, what are the conversations that are happening in the?
Well, first of all, I think with the advances in technology, like we all just shared, is having a hard time keeping up. So the Gen Zs and the Gen Alpha, if they're here, what they're going to require, or what they see as world, is very different from what we thought, right? And the problem is the people that are teaching them have undergone through systems that are completely different, right? So basically, it's a conflict of generation, if I would say it like that. But not all hope is lost. Because in the case of Rwanda, I think that there's one person that holds the key to changing these things, and it's the teacher, right? We have two categories of teachers. You have the teachers that teach at primary level, and they undergo through what we call a teacher training college, so teacher training schools. Not so many people know these. We have about 17 of them, right? But if you are willing to see the change that you are aspiring to see happening, then the teachers in these training colleges are what is going to be the turnkey. First, because they are young, so they enter when they're 15, 16 years old, and they exit when they're 18 years old. So basically the same generations. And then they spend some time and they go back and teach at primary level. And they spend some time at primary and then they go to university. So that's when they could go to university. And so doing whatever it takes to ensure that our teacher training colleges or teacher training schools are given the tools, or they're being taught in an environment that we, replicating what we would really like to see, I think that's the first step. The same could be done at the different universities that are teaching education or educators. Creating an environment there where would you like to see, for instance, in Rwanda, where there's a big discussion or conversation around improving English literacy, because English is our chosen language of instruction, and as such, if students don't understand, students here, teachers, and if the teachers don't master the language of instruction, then they're going to have a hard time explaining complex topics to the students, or complex courses to the students. And so, as a result, students are failing math. Well, they're not doing so well in math. They're not doing so well in sciences. But at the basis of all, it's because they don't understand the language, right? And so if you were to change and make sure that every graduate that goes out of secondary or primary now masters these concepts, yes, you can have as many laboratories and equipments as you want. You can, create beautiful infrastructure and environments as you want. But if you don't improve that language part, then they're going to get out with no understanding of the complex courses that you're teaching them, but also even English language, which is a language that connects us to the rest of the world, without that, right? And so you go back to the basics and say, okay, how do I teach the teachers so that when they get out, they're doing a better job in school? And then you also go back and say, okay, the teachers that I have, in service, what do I do with them? right? How do I upskill them to the level where we're not losing time? But they also need to have some level of willingness. Earlier today, at the ministry, we were discussing things that we've been able to do in Rwanda in record time, right? Today, when you see a moto guy driving with no helmet, like you almost feel the urge to stop them and say, hey, put on the helmet, because it's now like embedded in our DNA, right? But teachers wanting to improve themselves, and that thing has to come from within. How do I better myself so that, the one that I'm teaching are actually better for it? So it could be that, yes, there are things that the policymakers have to do, creating a better environment that allows then that the teachers that we have today, when they get in class tomorrow, they're equipping the current generations with the right tools and skills that they then get out in the world with, and they're prepared. They're better prepared. But then it also has to be something that, what is it that is driving me as a teacher to make sure that I'm actually improving myself so that I give better? And I think that part, unfortunately, we're not seeing it. We're not seeing it. And there are so many reasons, so not to blame the teacher. There's so many reasons why. And there are many things that we can do to make sure that that part is there. But as a collective, and I think starting with conversations like this, whenever you put this out in the world, how do we drive everyone to want to better themselves? And I think this could answer your earlier question on, why can't I spend 1,000 to buy data so that I connect to the bag application and learn and do better so that, I'm actually giving better results. But if there's no incentive of wanting to do better and wanting to better yourself, then we're not going to see any of these results. So a combination of things. There is what we can do. Absolutely, we know that technology has skipped so many and we can't keep up, right? We have to be honest with that. But if we invest in our teachers, create the right environment for the teachers to thrive, I think Julia knows, when I'm speaking about the people I'm most interested in, not just me, I'm talking about, the system, but I'm very interested in the teachers. How do we do, what do we do to make them better? How do we prepare them to actually give better to the students? And so when she was going to do the assessments and stuff, I was like, I'm more interested in the College of Education. I'm more interested in the teacher training colleges. No offense to the rest, but I know that if I don't do whatever it takes for the teachers that are coming out tomorrow, then I might lose another generation of students because I'm not equipping them with the right kind of skill set and tools that they need in order to thrive and actually be better citizens of the world. So those are the thoughts that we have at the ministry.
Clement, I want to ask you this question. Equipping the teachers and making sure the teachers are doing a great job in the classroom is going to take a while. What about the people who are graduating now, who are saying the current education system has failed me right now, today, right? Yes, the teachers, the people who are going to be taught by these better teachers who are better equipped with better devices are going to have a much better edge. But what about me? So what's your message maybe to that young person, maybe who just graduated high school, maybe can not make it to university, but want to enter the job market? Is there something they need to do right now to maybe fill that gap that they feel like the current education system did not provide them?
What's going through my head is, again, I visit many schools. Actually, this week and last week, I was on many visits to try to understand also some of the constraints, be it teachers or so. when I think about who this person is, there are two types of people. There is the one who already knows what it takes. Like, there's the outlier who probably has been succeeding considerably more than the odds, if we may say. Then there is one who just has been passing by and succeeded to go from a grade to another and is also graduating and has the papers and will try. So I like what Minister Claudette was saying. It's that thing within, like, where does it even come from? Like, where you so the person who will, you ask the question, what advice? So the person who will maybe listen to this and then hear the advice is that has it within. So the person that has it within needs no advice. They are already watching this, and I hope they have learned a lot from what they are here for, but also know that you can contribute to solving all the problems we are talking about here. So maybe for the benefit of Minister Claudette, be a teacher. We already have this with me. You will become a great teacher. But for those that, again, do not have it within, I think all children are born with the same abilities. And the more you travel at least the early stage of learning and feel confident that you are getting something that will get you somewhere, then I think the more that thing builds within. So in the primary schools we work with, some of the good feedback we get from RwandaEQUIP is students are democratic and they talk with their friends with teachers. I feel that's a good starting point, because that then conveys that they are getting something, some positive, I would say, vibe from their experience at school, because they learn a lot of English, they sing a lot within the school, and they feel that the teacher is there with them and they can interact more with the teacher. So I think that's what builds the thing within, and I hope we contribute to that.
Awesome. Julio, we talked offline about AI, and I think I'm glad Professor brought it up. Is it an opportunity or is it a threat? AI in education, right? Is it an opportunity? Right now, some students have access to a lot of AI tools, and they get a homework and they're able to use AI and just generate the whole thing, and they can get high marks. So the question is it a great thing for them to be using this tool to save a lot of time trying to come up with all these words? Or is it a threat in a way that many people talk about in education, maybe makes you not think a lot more? You don't use your critical thinking anymore, and you're just generating a lot of AI. So AI in education, does it make the current education obsolete? Is there an opportunity there? What are your thoughts?
I think there's a lot to learn about how we use AI in school, but also in our professional lives. Funnily enough, I'm starting a course today about how to use different AI tools to be more productive at work. So that's fantastic. I think I can use it as a great opportunity for me to probably let go of a few tasks that I shouldn't be doing. So why not for students either? But it has to be used, obviously, responsibly. Where I think the huge opportunity with AI in education lies, and this is something that we've been working on for the last years, is using AI to make education so much more personalized, right? We teach a language. I mean, all of you have been in school probably learning 1, 2, 3 different languages. How many of you have come out of school actually fluent in that language? Like, coming out speaking it, very few of us. Schools and school systems focus on teaching knowledge rather than skill. And, we have teacher shortages all over the world. This is not just a Rwandan problem. Many teachers that aren't necessarily trained, many teachers that don't have the English proficiency, and they are between a rock and a hard place. I feel, horrible for them, because, how would you even enjoy your job if you can't really, express yourself confidently in that language that you have to instruct in? So I think the way that AI can support teachers, because I agree also with the minister that at the heart of education, at the heart of any progress we make, are teachers. Teachers are the number one, most important player. So we can't forget about them. So AI really can supercharge them. And that's how we see it as a company as well. Where, if you have a teacher in a classroom with 50 students, they'll get less than a minute, per student in an hour, just over a minute. How much personalized support can you give? But if you have something that we're building, for example, is an AI tutor for English. So each kid will have their own, English program. They study at their own level, they study at their own pace, and the teacher becomes the mentor in the classroom. And this way, the teacher can get the kids that are doing well, can leave them there. They can just get on with it. And the kids that are struggling with more can get a lot more personalized attention. But on top of that, you can build AI tutors that can support the kids, can have conversations with the kids can ask questions, etc., and get that kind of one-on-one support that they might not always be able to get from the teacher. So it's kind of coupling them together to supercharge teaching and supercharge learning. We've done this to some extent in Brazil, where we work with over 3 million students. And in one particular state that had the lowest rates of English proficiency in schools, we've been working with them for 3 years. And after 2 years, we've been able to see an increase, an improvement in learning outcomes on the state English exam by 32.5%. And that's just in 2 years. So again, involving teachers, bringing AI in and making it super personalized, supercharges everyone.
Yeah, well, interesting. From a university standpoint, I think it kind of ties both the questions that I asked the minister and Julia. Number one, you have a lot of young people graduating from the University of Rwanda, and also you have this boom in accessibility when it comes to technology and learning, right? I think one of the most famous people in the world, Elon Musk, says that you can almost learn anything on YouTube, right? You don't need to sit in a classroom. And I think we were talking about this offline as well. Technology, artificial intelligence, does these two things make a university degree obsolete? Is there still room for people to go to school and learn? Or what are they learning there as opposed to what they can access through a lot of these education technology platforms that we're all building?
Thank you very much. I think we should not see the university as competing with this informal or personalized learning. If we conceive education like a continuum and a lifelong learning journey, then it will be easy to see what is the role of each component. Of course, personalized learning or the drive to learn can be assumed being a given. But if you dig deep, you realize that to have certain level of proficiency and capacity to deliver in a certain field as an expert, there is a kind of mix of personal learning, extended learning, where you learn something in the classroom, but depending on your passion, again, Minister and everyone is mentioning the passion. What do you want? What is your aim, your goal? I think in an education system, and it's related to your question of employability, I think we need to improve the part of building the individual, the character. We talk about 21st century. That's where we can ask a question, what are we, the person who is learning, who is, what we don't shape the people. We are not a factory of saying we want this person, then this is a profile. But we need to take into account the diversity of the audience of the students, which is not done in the current, because we have still the classroom, where we consider a classroom and we consider the curriculum, and the teacher is like a matchmaking. Like I have this to be a graduate, and then you see the education itself trapped itself, learning outcome, meaning you have a common goal. The student must match a frame. I think that's already a trap. But if we say we want to impart skills, as you, Julia, said, in a diverse way and creating multiple pathways, if we revisit our curriculum, we have tried in a review process to embed some of the elements. So we now ask the question not to ourselves to define, but to involve the industry. So what we call consultative meetings. So in any curriculum, before it's approved, you need to show at least demonstrate that you've consulted the industry. I think if you create a conversation to get the end in mind, and then we do like reverse engineering, we say, this is a profile of the person. We consider people as diverse and they can learn with different us. And then the curriculum now will become like a foundation from which I build. Then the university become relevant because the university is a place where you can be patient for 4 years or 3 years to structure your learning, to create a kind of matrix, a mold. So I would consider it like a designer. You have a basic mold, and then from which you can create different shapes. If the university serves as at that level, because if you take course like mathematics, there are some concepts you can go to YouTube, but if you don't progressively enter into a process of learning and patiently follow a path, sometimes the organization of your learning may not serve the purpose. So I think if the university plays that role, does not wanted to make sure that the person is having a complete set of knowledge, but is strong to embrace now many learning opportunities, then AI, then everything will come even in the future will fit in. So I think we need now to play a moving target game where if things in the self-learning are evolving, we don't keep conservative by continuing to deliver the knowledge the student can acquire easily without the teacher. And I think then we offload the curriculum from those unnecessary learning, then we can leverage those learning to achieve the intended outcome, which is shaping the attitude, the capacity to learn. If I'm a teacher of a course, I enhance the capacity to even leverage those courses, then I will no longer see an antagonist. Because AI will come now as an enabler. I will share that. Look, I gave you an example in our offer. I was teaching and a student asked me a question. I don't have the answer. I have to be honest. I have a PhD in a field, but I cannot say that he asked me a question. Let me be specific so that at which distance I can transmit for this system, this network. It was on a spot. And then I said, I don't have the answer right now. But you guys, I was joking. I didn't know that he has actually on his phone AI app. And then I asked, you are young, you are a .com. Can you interrogate chat? I think I have it. So I asked, I supported the student to structure his question to the AI. And he entered and the response was really, really well, perfectly. In a click, he got on his mobile phone, the answer. And I said, okay, look at it. But I propose, I suggest that you go and deepen your learning. So teacher can become now a facilitator. and then we offload ourselves from being like ex-cathedra learning. That would be my feedback. Thank you.
Some cool. Question to the entrepreneurs. You have policymakers here. You have people who are working in the education sector. What do you want to grow your businesses? Gabriel first.
A really, really key thing that, again, has been mentioned by everyone, implementation of EdTech into the classroom is 100% dependent on the teacher implementing it in the right way, right? And I've studied bachelor's and master's for 5-6 years. And if I just look back at teachers, I can tell you 1 or 2 teachers that made a massive impact on me choosing my career today and creating an interest in a specific subject. And I can tell you 15 teachers that I can't remember a word they said, right? And for me, my personality, I need to have an engaging teacher who is a good communicator, who brings me and shows me and lets me touch, and there's some practicalities in their learning. Whereas some other people have a different way of learning, and obviously we're different type of learners, but going back to then the teacher, the first thing I heard when I came to Rwanda was that, and correct me if I'm wrong, was that students go through a national exam and the top performers go to medicine and architecture and whatnot, engineering and whatnot. And then the lower performers got directed, not selected, but directed to the College of Education and other, not just College of Education, but it wasn't as hard to get into. And the obvious conclusion from us who were hearing that there was some struggles in the education space was then looking at, for example, the Swedish model. What changed the Swedish model of teachers was basically just making the teacher role a much more attractive role. Like Rwanda has done with entrepreneurship. If you look at entrepreneurship 10 years ago, it was not attractive or cool to be an entrepreneur. People looked at you like you were crazy. Now, 10 years later, everyone wants to be an entrepreneur because the government stood behind it, implemented policies, and inspired people, right? Same thing, I believe, like when we bring it, we have a tool that we can give to a teacher now, but we know that only 1 out of 10 teachers will really use it in a way that we intended it to be used, and we can't afford to do that physical training to 10,000, 100,000 students as a for-profit. So that's where we need the government support by saying, for example, we certify this technology, we've tested this technology, and now everyone has to learn this technology, and this is how we're rolling it out. In a similar way that RwandaEQUIP and the Ministry of Education, I think, are somehow collaborating on a nationwide project, I think the more EdTechs needs to get that kind of opportunity. Awesome, cool. Luke?
Yeah, it's actually to support what Gabriel is actually requesting, because I recall that the RwandaEQUIP is one of the newest. You can relate. When the reason of bringing this on the table is to show how much can happen if a new tech solution is given the support that is needed. I'm not questioning the support that is out there, but of course, RwandaEQUIP isn't charging anyone, right? RwandaEQUIP is not charging anyone, teachers, students, schools, right? Yes, this is actually one of the challenges that's probably SmartClass, Academic Bridge, or DAG Innovation is going to change. I mean to face. And that being said, I just wanted to say, like, as Yussouf asked, that currently there is the intergenerational conflicts among teachers of today who've learned through the system that is sort of different from the ones of today. And it somehow creates the misunderstanding between the students and teachers and the system. I would say, how about we create this future now? Because I would say that Rwanda is really ahead of so many other, in quotation, at least the countries that have been able to travel to, of so many countries. But if you look at the speed at which the embracing of this technology is happening at, it's quite a challenge. And I do believe that if there could be a system whereby if something, because sincerely speaking, there's this coolness around the conversation, and somehow we lag into putting it in work. And if you look at the possibility of a private startup like mine, the potential that it can reach in terms of the funding, the reach, not only the reach as in going to school and knock. If that was the only work, then it could have been easy for me to also reach to 750,000, students. Very easy, because sincerely speaking, I can afford to travel around the country. But it's not that, because there is also this conflict, Honorable Minister, whereby the solution is here. Even the school has the infrastructure. But if you look at the embracing rate, there is more of do it if you like. And for me, for the people, if putting on the helmet on a bike was optional, we could still be seeing people riding the bikes without it. But there was once a point or enough teaching, enough awareness and enough enforcement. And now, automatically, when you don't have a helmet, I'm not going to ride with you. So I think if this could be done somehow faster, for example, I'll give a practical example. Maybe every school with the computer lab is supposed or is mandatory has to ensure that they're using 1 or 2 or 3 EdTech solutions within this period of time. And every student must show or must use it at no cost. Yeah, it's possible. And I will add this from the teacher's perspective. Do you know that personally, I struggle a lot with teachers than students. This is the process we go through. The administration will be easily understand what we are trying to do, what we are bringing on the table, and why it matters. If we happen to be in front of students and we are pitching, very easy, very smooth. But the challenge is to give these platforms, like Minister said, relevancy. If relying on SmartClass is not going to help you get the marks that you're supposed to get, then SmartClass is no longer relevant. And unfortunately, teachers are sort of, it's voluntary or, how do I call it? It's like, sometimes they even say it's a lot of work, going into this tutorial. You can tell that the wheel is, out of 30 teachers, only 4 are interested. I don't know how to handle this. And if I visit this school 6 times, 7 times, I'm like, the whole budget is going on one school. I should be moving forward. So I think there is a need from the policy makers' standpoint to really find a way to build this future now, because we have the tools. Like Principal mentioned, at least the university have this fiber, and I'm 100% sure that we really have a good over 85% of the schools in Rwanda have the computer labs, right? The last time I checked, the internet was about 65%. And I guess it's like the last report that is, this is a very good number. And I'm pretty sure now it's probably on 70 or even more. So imagine if this infrastructure and these equipments, probably the computers are now 90s plus. I can recall schools with computer labs, but with no library, So this is the effort that is being put into technology in schools. So imagine if we could put on a policy to make sure this infrastructure, these EdTech solutions are being consumed, are being used to support the learning outcomes. I know the future could start happening by now, not waiting until the prepared teachers to graduate, but this future could be used by now. So yeah,
Let's build the future now.
All right. There's so much that happens in a school setup that I think the young EdTech startups are not aware of, right? So like from his simple intervention, I could tell. And I cannot blame him, you know. I'm thinking, what do we do so that many people are aware of the realities, you know, that are to be known, you know, so that if you are coming up with a solution, you're going with the right assumptions, right? So I think and my hope is that this is one of the many conversations, right? And we could also create, I don't know what that is, but just so we are able to relay as much information on the current realities, you know, in our setup. It's not as easy as make teachers do now. It's not as easy as no. But how do we work around many of these challenges together, but creatively, right? So I'll end with an example. Right now, we're trying to, and I know that RwandaEQUIP had done that previously when they're already doing it. There's a question on school dropout, right? If they drop out and they go out of the school system, usually they stop being an education problem, right? But because of the social, considerations, we have to bring these students back in school. So now we're very interested in how do we get, using technology, how do we get the teachers to help us track the students, right? Because before you drop out, you're absent from school for a consecutive, 2 days, 3 days, or 4 days, or in 1 month, you're not there the majority of the days, right? If you ask the teachers to do that, today they're, everyone is doing it on paper. The schools that have RwandaEQUIP can do it using technology, but not everyone is doing it, right? And I remember we were thinking, what is it that we do that make it so easy for the teacher that they don't feel that they're doing it? You know? Like, literally, they don't know that they are doing it, so that they don't feel that this is additional work on their, right? Yeah, we gave an example of there's a program in Nairobi, school feeding. They have these small watches. I don't know if you've ever seen, like yellow, orange one. They're NFC enabled, and so when you go get your lunch, go to school feeding, then they tap. They use a phone to tap, and then they get to know how many students have eaten, how many haven't, and all. So thinking, could this be a solution? Would we be able to make sure that every student has this? But what do we do so that we make it so easy that the teacher feels that I'm actually not even recording? Is it like a facial recognition that they go through in a class? And, is it like, how do we make it so easy that they don't feel that there's a burden?
Well.
Yeah. But now, so everyone has come to us so far is coming up with another platform, like a way they have to have a laptop, go in, and I'm like, no, this is not going to work. Because the teacher does not want to have a laptop open and go in and call, no. So we need to be so creative. I'm sure there are these solutions, and I'm actually using this platform to also put it out and make sure these solutions are out there that we just need to come in, integrate with our system, because we already have all the names of the students, and figure out how to make it so easy for the teachers. Maybe using their phone, I don't know whatever it is. We record these students. If we know that this student in this particular school, in this district, has not showed up for 5 days, then we know how to tell them, look, this one is not coming to school. So this is as easy as that. But then these are the certain realities. You cannot force a teacher, but how do we creatively figure out how to work with them. You all referred to RwandaEQUIP in a way, but if Rwanda, maybe have a session where you actually share the challenges. Yes, because it's not that easy, and it's probably our fault because we don't share this information so that people get to know. But it's not easy, It's not easy to make teachers do what they don't want to do. But how do we creatively support them? That's why I insisted on, if we go in these teacher training colleges, the people don't want to support. You already know that this person is getting out of the teacher training college with the knowledge on a certain technology, right? If you go in the College of Education or other universities that are teaching teachers, in the future, and you make sure that they get out with these tools, with these skills, then, most likely when you go in this particular school, you'll find them and they'll be using this. But if you go in a school right now, you're finding, the Ireres of, 1980s. I am set in my own ways. I am a human at the end of the day. Change is very hard. So how do we creatively work with the teachers? We cannot force them to do anything. We have seen it, they don't. But how do we creatively go in and support and work with them to change whatever it is that we need to change? There's no policy, I cannot wake up in the morning and say, all teachers have to do this. Some will do, some will not do, right? There are things that they do, they embrace quickly. They will embrace it, right? If you tell them, I'm giving you a phone and it's, preloaded with ABCD, they will use this, right? Because everyone now knows how to use a phone. But if you come up with a tablet on the side and something else on the side, they will just, no. This is too much of a burden. So maybe, Clement, if you allow, have a session. Yeah. With EdTech entrepreneurs, tell them what it feels like to actually, with all the government support that they think you had. Yeah. Share with them the real true picture of what to work in a school. That means, because I think these are the realities that now so many people